Hello, Editor Watem here. My voice is back, yay! So I'll get back to recording soon, and then editing, and then uploading. Yeah, since it's been so long since last time I've recorded, I have the PS3 version now of the code, so now I can actually install Umineko project. But I'll still need to record that. This one's still past me. So, in any case, I'll send you back to several weeks ago, Watem now. Hello, Watem here, and welcome back to Small Umineko When Seagulls Cry. Natsui looked at Genji and Canon as she said this. Maybe she was trying to ask whether the servants who served directly under the one-winged eagle knew of a place he might go. However, it was probably the other way around. Their faces made it clear that those who knew Kinzo best realized even more than the rest how impossible it was for him to leave his ring.
僕たちにも見当がつきません。
ご存知の通り、親方様はあの書斎の中に、お休みの場所からご不浄まで全てを設けさせました。
Although we do also know that he was in there earlier in the morning.
親方様があの部屋をお出になることなど、よっぽどのことがない限り考えられません。
となると、なんや。そのよっぽどのことがあったって考えるのが自然だっちゅうことになるんか。
まだそうと決まったわけではありません。とにかく気まぐれな方ですから、現状をご存知なくお一人で散歩をされている可能性もあります。
Perhaps the reason he was in such a good mood when talking with Natsui is because her arrival had informed him that the six had gone missing, and so he knew that that was the six chosen sacrifices.
仮にそうだとしたら、一刻も早く現状をお知らせしてご指示を仰がねばなりません。
そうね。考えたくはないけど、お父様の身に何かあったのかもしれないしね。
そのような不吉なことは考えたくもありません。
No one had seen Kinzo since the discovery of those six terrible corpses. On top of that, the phones were broken, the radio wouldn't reach anyone, and there was no way to contact the police. Apparently the typhoon would leave tomorrow, and a boat would come. But until then, no one could rely on anyone outside the island, nor could they escape the island. The tragedy had hit everyone so abruptly, they'd lost all their composure. Everyone had felt a heavy silence. Everyone was impatient. Even though they needed to do something, they couldn't think of anything. So, some of them had held their heads in their arms, while others got irritated. Right now, no one could explain what was occurring on this island, Rokkenjima. Well, I think Kinzo can, because he, put the epitaph down. Anyway, after that, we ate the breakfast Kumasawa had made, which felt dry and tasteless. Of course, this was right after something like that had happened. No one felt particularly hungry. However, we understood logically that not eating would weaken our bodies. It would also be rude to Kumasawa-san, who had made the breakfast. Kumasawa-san had taken some unusual Western vegetables, ones that Koda-san had probably ordered for his ultra-elaborate meals, and cooked them in a Japanese style, which made them turn an unpleasant colour. As to what Koda-san had been planning to cook with those ingredients, right then I couldn't even imagine it. If I did think about it, I'd be reminded of the way Koda-san died, and the sour taste would fill the inside of my mouth. Everyone pretended to eat for the time being, but of course, no one made much progress. Then, we began pooling our knowledge of our current situation. First off, 6 people, which included Uncle Kraus, my dad, Kirie-san, Aunt Rosa, Koda-san and Sharon-chan, had been found in the Rose Garden storehouse as brutally mutilated corpses. And yet, we still couldn't contact the police since both the phones and the radio were unusable. So, until the typhoon passed, there was nothing we could do. Furthermore, Grandfather, who we might have hoped would be able to show a little leadership in this kind of situation, had disappeared some time ago. Godson hadn't made breakfast, so Grandfather's stomach must have been empty. And if he had just been taking a casual walk, we should have been able to hear him whining about how hungry he was by now. And despite that, he hadn't appeared. There was more than a small chance that he got caught up in this crime. According to my aunts, on the way back from Kinzo's study, they had searched for him, calling out on every floor, but were unable to find him. Considering the timing of it all, it's only reasonable to assume that this disappearance had something to do with the crime. We figured Dad and the rest were probably killed in the dining hall, and then painstakingly moved to the storehouse. So maybe Grandfather has already been killed. No, it can't be, because the 6 have already been claimed. Probably. I mean, there are some extra people, but that's probably going to be in the everyone else section. But I suppose a few could go missing along the way, and dragged to some strange place which we simply haven't discovered yet. No one actually said it out loud, but this theory seemed extremely convincing.
私たちはお屋敷の戸締まりを確認してきます。お父様も念入りに探さなければなりません。子供たちはこの部屋を出ないように。エヴァさんと秀吉さんは申し訳ありませんが、ここで子供たちと一緒にいてください。南條先生もお願いいたします。
わかりました。ここでお待ちしています。
Aunt Natsuhi followed the servants, Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, and Kanon-kun out of the parlour. All that was left was Uncle Eva, Uncle Hideyoshi. Did I say Uncle Eva? Aunt Eva, Uncle Hideyoshi, Dr. Nanjo, and the 4 of us children, a total of 7 people.
みんなで仲良くテレビでも見て待ってよな。しかし日曜日の午前中はろくな番組やっとらへんな。
Uncle Hideyoshi started acting cheerfully, trying to brighten up this gloomy atmosphere.
ろくな番組見る見る。
お、そうか。マリアちゃんはテレビ見るか。じゃ、おじさんと一緒に見ような。
Maria was the only one who joined in. Though Maria had been told of her mother's death, she didn't show the slightest flicker in her emotions. Was it really normal for a 9-year-old girl like Maria to act so much like a very young child? Everyone else's mood failed to improve, and they each sank absent-mindedly into their sofas.
兄貴、聞いていいか。なんだい。
I mean, technically you just said.
そこで。兄貴はシャノンちゃんの指輪の話をしたよな。あれ、送ったのは兄貴か。
George Anarchy didn't answer, but he hung his head and closed both of his eyes. There could be no clearer response.
よせよパトラ。少しは察しろよ。
だな。悪いことを聞いたぜ。そうさ。僕だよ。彼女に昨べ求婚したんだ。その時指輪を渡した。明日になったらそれを好きな指にはめて返事としてくれって気ざったらしいことを言ってね。
And that ring had been on the ring finger of Shannon's left hand.
数年前からシャドウに相談を受けてたぜ。
Huh?
ジョージ兄さんのことですよ。
なんて言ってたのかな。
シャノンは嘘をつくのが下手だったからよ。ジョージ兄さんのことを言ってるのはすぐにバレバレでさ。自分は使用人の身分だけど親しくしてもいいのだろうかとか、男の人の好きそうなものは何かとか、どういう服を着たら喜ぶかとか、そんなことをいろいろとさ。なんつうのか、そのまあ焼けたぜ。
それが婚約指輪を渡されておしまいかよ。
価値観は人それぞれだけどよ、男から求婚されるってのは人生の到達点なんだと思うんだよ。だからきっと昨夜のシャノンは心の底から、いや生まれてから今までの中で一番幸せだったと思うぜ。
George Anarchy sighed deeply, without raising his head. Maybe tears had risen to his eyes.
シャノンは昨べゲストハウスの当番だったらしいんだ。
Check something. So, second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close, and one shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost. Yeah, I suppose that could still be George and Chan. Depending on the wording, if it was the same wording, then it would suggest that the love would remain lost even after the end.
でもシャノンは僕と一緒にゲストハウスに帰るのを恥ずかしがってお屋敷に行ってしまった。
シャノンの気持ちを察しろよ。婚約指輪をもらえばどんなに予告されてたって普通は舞い上がっちまって頭は真っ白になっちまうぜ。気恥ずかしくて仕方なかったんだろうよ。
それでシャノンは当番でないはずのお屋敷へ行き、
You should probably just stop there for your own sake.
そこでゴーダさんの仕事を手伝い事件に巻き込まれてしまった。僕が
You can't blame yourself on that.
あの日
Although I did suggest that perhaps that what she wasn't originally supposed to be one of the six.
あの場所で指輪なんか渡さなければシャノンはサヨは事件に巻き込まれなかったんだ。兄貴、それだけは違うぜ。断じて違う。だからそれ以上泣くんじゃねえ。
バトラー君、そっとしてあげなさい。
After Aunt Eva said that, I stopped talking to him. Misplaced words of comfort might actually do more harm than good. Jessica sat down next to Anarchy and put an arm around him. I don't know, something about her trying to smile, sadly, just feels so wrong for her character. Feels so awkwardly placed there. Maybe only Jessica, who'd known about Anarchy and Shannon's love since the beginning, and would even discuss that relationship with Shannon, could comfort Anarchy right now. I went over to Aunt Eva and sat down on the opposite sofa.
バトラー君は強いわね。もうだいぶしっかりしているように見えるわよ。
まあほら、愛の深さが傷の深さじゃないっすか。俺は別に あんなクソ親父同志の方が知ったことじゃないし。
Well, it's clear that's not true.
キリエさんは気の毒ですが、まあ本当の親ってわけじゃないですしね。
あら、という割にはさっきすっごく大泣きしてたわよ。
まあ育ての親に対する恩はあのくらい泣けば OK かと思いまして。
そのあたりの切り替えの速さやドライなあたりは本当にルドルフ譲りね。あの子は昔から激しく喜んだり悲しんだり怒ったりしたけれど、すぐにケロリと平静を取り戻したわ。
そんなことはないっすよ。俺だってまだまだ心のショックから立ち直れちゃいません。
Hmm.
ただ俺がみんなと違うのは、それによってどういう感情が生み出されるかってことだと思います。
どういうこと？
I've been acting much calmer than George, Anarchy, and Jessica. That wasn't because my sadness was any less intense, or because I'd already recovered. My sadness was simply getting replaced gradually with a different emotion.
悲しいっていうよりは
This is interesting music.
腹立たしいって気持ちなんすよ。どこのドイツがこんなことをしやがったのか。横っ面に一発お見舞いしてやらないことには腹の虫が収まらねえんです。
That's what I really wanted to do. I couldn't forgive myself if I just sat there, overwhelmed with sadness and tugging my knees. Maybe he should bring up that his dad thought he would get killed that night as well.
親父たちが殺されて以降、この島は台風に包まれたままです。つまりこれだけの上等を決めてくれやがった野郎はまだ
そういうことになるわね。今も暗い森のどこかに身を潜めているのかしら。
I felt like I'd had a very similar conversation with Kiria-san the night before. That's right. After the letter from the person claiming to be Beatrice appeared at the dinner table last night, and talked about whether or not the 19th person actually exists.
エヴァおばさん、この殺人、昨夜のベアトリーチェの手紙と何か関連があるんでしょうかね。
You should remember Beatrice's epitaph.
ああ、例の？さあ、どうかしらね。あの手紙はお父様が遺産問題に絡みたくて出した怪文書という見方で兄弟は一致したんだけれども。
I don't know about you, but if half of the... She's the only one left. How did I only just realise that she's literally the only sibling left? Ah. I was going to say, yeah, murder certainly complicates things further. You know, being the only one left doesn't complicate things further. Although there is still the question of when passing a generation, but still.
それと今朝の事件に関係があるかは今の段階では分かりかねるわね。
あの手紙、本当にベアトリーチェなんて魔女がマリアに渡したんすかね。
まさか。全部お父様の仕組んだ茶番でしょ。シャノンちゃんあたりに肖像画のドレスを着させてマリアちゃんを騙したんでしょ。お父様らしい手の込みすぎたいたずらだと思うけど。
昨夜キリエさんとベアトリーチェは実在するんだろうかって話をしたんですけど、キリエさんも俺たち18人の中にベアトリーチェがいるだろうと言ってましたね。
そんなの当然じゃない。この島には私たちしかいないのよ。なら私たちの中の誰かがベアトリーチェを語ったに決まってるじゃない。
Not necessarily.
この島には俺たち以外はいないすか。
当然でしょ。私たち以外の誰がここにいるっていうの？この島には私たちしかいない。
No one came through the normal entrance except for you. It's possible that somewhere on like the other side of the island, which is heavily forested, someone might have like parked a small boat there.
18人しかいないならベアトリーチェを語るのも18人の中の誰かしかいないじゃない。
Kirie-san denied the existence of a 19th person by spinning the chessboard around. Even though Aunt Eva hadn't constructed an argument that complicated, her opinion was at least the same. Except, if that's the case, our situation starts to look very ugly. At the time of Beatrice's letter, the whole thing could be passed off as a prank set up by someone or another. However, if we're assuming that there's no 19th person, we can't ignore this anymore. In other words, one of us committed murder.
19人目がいないなら親父たちを殺した犯人も18人の中にいるってことになっちまうじゃないですか。つまり今この屋敷にいる誰かが殺したってことになる。
Oh, I mean, not necessarily. It could have been Kinzo, who might not be in the mansion anymore. Aunt Eva smiled meaningfully. It looked like she thought this conclusion should have been obvious from the very beginning.
犯人は倉庫の中に6人の遺体を運び込んだわ。でもよく倉庫の中に運び込めたわよね。あのシャッターは常に閉められていて施錠されていたそうよ。つまり倉庫内に運び込むにはシャッターの施錠を開ける必要があった。わかる？
But also, the culprit would need to know. If they got the key, then the culprit would have to know where the key is. But the culprit would have to know about the existence of the storehouse. So unless Battler can pick the lock himself, which I mean we don't know. Maybe he can. He's probably exempted from the list of candidates because not having enough information for not showing up for 6 years. Likely.
たまたまその日シャッターが開けっぱなしになってた可能性は？
And then locked? No.
使用人たちは常に閉めていると言ってたわ。つまり鍵を使用人室から持ち出さなくては倉庫は絶対に開けられない。
鍵は使用人室の一つしかないんすかね。
And yeah, someone might have been able to make a copy.
源氏さんはそうだと言ってるわ。ということは犯人はそのたった一つの倉庫の鍵のありかを知っていて持ち出した。さっきカノン君が使用人室に鍵を戻すところを見たわ。壁にびっしりと鍵がかけられていて、とても素人にはどこに何がかけてあるのかわからなかった。
Yeah, which is why I don't think it's Battler.
犯人はその中から倉庫の鍵を見事選び出したのよ。
Now Maria.
しかも札も何もついていない鍵を手にしてバラ庭園裏にある倉庫の鍵だと理解した。
No, I'm somehow more suspicious of Maria than I am of Battler.
ついでに言うと倉庫の場所すら理解していた。
Because magic.
もっとはっきり断言するわ。犯人は使用人室の内部にも熟知している。
So she's suggesting that it's probably a servant. Her argument was extremely plain and clear. If the bodies had been found thrown somewhere in the bushes of the rose garden, there wouldn't have been much to go on. However, there was only one key to the storehouse in the servant room, and it was stored with such a large group of keys, a novice would not be able to tell them apart. Also, no, never mind. Nope, the point I thought up, yep, not a possibility. Moving on, this meant the culprit was someone who went into the servant room and lodged and was familiar with the locations of the keys. Family members didn't normally go into the servant room, which meant that.
ってことは使用人の誰かが犯人。
悪いけどそれ以上はおばさんも言えないわよ。でも一つだけ教えられることがあるわ。
なんすか？
犯人、うん、犯人たちは複数で、そして十分な武装をしていたと考えられるわ。だってそうでしょ？食堂にいた兄さんたち4人を一度に襲って殺し、合計6人分の遺体をようようとバラ庭園の向こうの倉庫まで運んで、悪趣味な化粧と落書きを施している。
Not necessarily. Suppose, for example, so two servants could be taken out one by one, but in terms of the four in the room, they might have had tea laced with like a sedative. For example, sedate all the four of them talking, and then kill them relatively easily after that. Arrange for that disgusting makeup and the graffiti on the shutter.
これだけのことを単独犯で行えるはずもないでしょ。
And there would have been plenty of time to drag the bodies across. It made sense. It probably would have been possible for a single person with enough time, but it would take so incredibly long. It's probably safe to assume that a significant number of people were involved.
ひゅー。ってことは、エヴァおばさんは使用人の人たちがみんなグルだろって言ってんすか？
静かになさいな。憶測で言っちゃ悪いわよ。それにもし本当にそうだったらどうするつもり？彼らは私たちを生かして返さないでしょうね。しかも兄さんたち4人をやすやすと殺した相手なのよ。今この部屋に残っていてまともに戦えそうな人間はうちの家族の3人にせいぜいバトラ君で4人ってところ。状況は昨晩と何も変わらない。つまり犯人にとって残る私たちを皆殺しにするなんて簡単なことなのよ。
Except that isn't their plan. I'd been playing detective with Aunt Eva, trying to expose the person who had killed Dad and the rest before the police did. If only I could cleverly penetrate the culprit's identity and stick the proof in their face. I'd been so sure that, just like in one of those detective movies, the culprit would then give up and surrender. However, the culprit would only surrender if there was no way for them to fight back. The culprits behind the crime on this island were far from helpless, and might even be able to massacre all the remaining people here. And, on top of that, this island was like a giant closed room, cut off from the outside world by the typhoon. So, they had a full day, until tomorrow, to kill, scheme, and camouflage themselves. In short, it wasn't a safe atmosphere where we could get very far by playing detective. To the contrary, we were at a stage where we had to be scared stiff, since playing detective might displease the culprits, and cause them to commit another mass murder.
あくまでも可能性の問題よ。でも私は使用人の人たちをまだ信用できないわね。それに私は使用人だけを疑ってるわけじゃないわ。さらに黒幕がいるかもしれないと思ってるわよ。
黒幕？どうしてですか？
Yeah, if it was done by all the servants, it wouldn't be... Butler wouldn't be able to be included, since he's been completely out of contact. Ooh, that's great now, I'll come back to that later. But yeah, since he's been completely out of contact with servants, doesn't have the information, would need to have communicated a well-planned out attack, and the servants probably wouldn't want to trust him and bring him in. So, fairly confident that it can't be better if that's the case.
勘よ。
Also, I sincerely doubt that Cannon would kill Shannon.
使用人は書いて字のごとし、誰かに使用されて手足となる存在よ。殺されたのは後宮家の親族ばかり。なら その結果で利害が発生する人間が関わるのは当然。
This was also plain and clear. The Shromier family had been right in the middle of discussions about how to distribute the inheritance when grandfather died. If this case followed the standard form of any classic mystery novel, the crime was definitely caused by someone with ties to the Shromier family, and who was involved in the inheritance problem. Aunt Eva had probably read a few books in that genre herself. Her argument may have had a few blind assumptions in it, but it was a standard conclusion that anyone might have reached. I think most people would end up suspecting the servants, even if they used different reasoning to get there. Especially the story about the key to the shutter. That made it very easy to suspect that one of the servants was involved.
だから、なぜか気に入らねえんすよね。
気に入らないって？何の話？
あ、いえいえ、こっちの話っす。
I tried to judge her question by joking, but I couldn't erase the sense of unease welling up inside me. After all, her conclusion was such an easy one to reach. A conclusion that anyone could reach. And I just couldn't be satisfied with that. If I tried spinning the chessboard around, like I'd learned from Kiryu-san, this was exactly why a servant couldn't possibly be the culprit. If the servants really were the culprits, they wouldn't hide the bodies in a place connected to themselves, and they could just ignore the existence of the storehouse for quite a while. Why on earth would they use the rose garden shed if they were the ones in charge of the key that could unlock it? The police would probably immediately pursue whoever had been in control of the key. It's even possible that some other facts might come to light as a result. The more we think of the servants as the culprits, the less reason they had to carry the bodies into the storehouse. But what if they knew we'd think that and put the corpses in the storehouse for that very reason? No, that's completely impossible. No. When the police come and inspect the scene of the crime, they will probably be able to uncover many things. No matter how carefully the culprits carried out that murder, some traces will definitely be found. In other words, they had everything to lose and nothing to gain. If you think about it this way, and look at this murder game from the other culprit side, it's hard to imagine why they'd want to call attention to the corpses. Once the corpses were found, it could result in someone sending a report to the police, or it might make the remaining people more cautious, or it might make the survivors start to search for the culprit. None of these things would make life any easier for the culprit. It's just like the words of the main character's mother in a novel I read recently called Higurashi no Naku Koro ni. Every story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Eliminating that beginning is essential for the perfect crime. Right now we don't know where grandfather is. We don't know if he's already become a victim or if he's one of the culprits. But this state of confusion must be beneficial to the killer. And I'll end it there. I'll just have a look at Kinzo's. It disappeared from his study unnoticed. Kinzo's study has everything from a bed to a toilet and to a bathtub, so it's extremely rare for him to go outside. However, he does occasionally go out for a walk on a whim without telling anybody, and his disappearance invariably leads to a huge uproar throughout the house. He usually comes back as soon as he gets hungry. Usually. And on that note, I will be ending it there for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know any feedback you have in the comments, and until next time, see ya.